the mediation kind of task force at the Biennial, and he's been doing various things around the building which I know a lot of you are involved with, such as the Arts Awards, tour coordinator sessions and stuff like that. So, but Ollie is also really heavily involved with Grants for the Arts, so in this session he's just going to explain a little bit more about them and how you can kind of apply for them and tips for making a successful application. So it should be great, and I'll hand you over to the man himself.
Thank you very much. Before I start, I just want to ask, has everyone heard of Arts Council England? No one out there? That's good. Have you all heard of Grants for the Arts? Yes. Okay, some no's, that's fine. So it's just to get an awareness. And has anyone actually applied for Grants for the Arts as well? No. Okay, so quite fresh. Okay, so the Arts Council England is actually funded by government and also through lottery. This is our kind of mission statement for you. Arts Council England champions, develop and invest in artistic and cultural experiences that enrich people's lives. We support a range of activities across the arts, museums and libraries, which we recently merged with. From theatre to digital art, reading and dance, music to literature, craft and to collections. So I've tailored this presentation specifically more for visual arts and live art, because I'm hoping that's the kind of audience that I'm working with. So as I was saying, our portfolio funding is what our grant and aid, which is the money that comes from government centrally, funds places like Liverpool Biennial. So they're in receipt of a 3-year cycle of funding. And we have lots of those organisations which have this portfolio funding. But we also have Renaissance funding, which is for specifically for museums. So like Manchester Museum is an example, and they connect together and they actually facilitate museum development in the sector. And we also have Grants for the Arts, which is what I'm here today talking about. And Grants for the Arts is lottery funded. So it comes out through people playing the lottery. But people can apply for Grants for the Arts if they actually object to the use of lottery as well. So if you're somebody who doesn't believe in gambling, you can still apply to Grants for the Arts. We just ask that you provide us with a reason why that is. And we accept that reason. It's just so that there is a small reserve which comes actually out of government funds as well. So you can still apply into it. We try and be as open as possible. We also provide different strategic funds. They're more aimed towards organisations, so less important for what I'm talking about today. But just to kind of give you an idea, we have a touring scheme for theatres. So people can actually apply to tour. And we did previously award the Tape to tour their work, so that they could reach out to different areas which wouldn't normally be in receipt of art. But you can also find out more about that on our website. So our key mission is achieving great art for everybody. And that doesn't mean we're expecting you to be able to give art to everyone, but we hope collectively through the applications that we receive, we'll be able to spread and represent demographically everybody and give culturally rich content for people to enjoy. I've got a little video that kind of introduces it. Hopefully it'll work. And if not, we can just plow through.
New talent, emerging grassroots artists, and new which is actually going to benefit everybody across the country.
What do you have to do to apply?
It's an online application form, and all of the information that an applicant needs is actually on the website. And there's also a team of advisors who are only a phone call away, so it's well worth giving them a ring.
From July 2013, the application process and the way we make decisions for grants for the arts is changing. The application form now asks applicants to answer a series of focused questions about their activity. We can still make grants from £1,000 up to £100,000, but from July 2013, the threshold for small grants will rise from £10,000 to £15,000. Grants for the arts will continue to be our open application funding programme, allowing us to respond to new ideas and new talents and support great art for everyone.
So that is, it's a grant, it's not a loan, you get to keep the money for yourself, which I think is important to stress, because people do wonder about that sometimes. Where did it go? Still talking. That's it. Okay, so you can apply for from £1,000 up to £100,000. Your activity can last from a day up to 3 years. It can be just a durational thing. You can go in and out of it. It could be for your own personal development, or it could be to do an exhibition. There's a whole range of things which are listed, and I'll go through them. You can apply as an individual, so for yourself, or you can represent a group of people and be the person who is in receipt of the fund. You'd, yeah?
Yes. The money you need come back, you need pay back.
So it's not a loan, it's a grant. You get to keep that money. So the money, if you're applying as an individual, it would go to you. But if you're representing like the group of you, but you applied as the individual, it would go to you. But you could set up an organisation, and then you would need 2 signatories and a separate bank account.
For obtain the grants, you need to be an organization.
You can apply as an organisation.
No, I have one idea, individual.
Yeah.
I can apply as me.
Yeah. Or you can represent more than just yourself.
Or organization.
Yeah. But if you want to officially apply,
How they know if I take the money for a car or for other things?
so you do have to provide evidence. So in terms of the application that you put is a proposal, and then if you would then give you 90% of that money up front if it's under £15,000, and we would hold on to the last 10% of that money, and we would expect you to provide a full activity report form which details what happened in your activity. And if you were unable to give us that, then we might chase after you and ask for the money back. So you do have to evidence what you've done. Does that make sense? So just to explain as well with the organisations, there's different types of organisation that you can apply for. You can be a community interest group, or you can be officially an organisation. But what they're saying is that you do need 2 signatories for that as an organisation and a separate bank account. So it should be a time-limited based activity, so up to that 3-year threshold. And it must have a focus on the arts. Because there is a big lottery if you're interested in providing something which actually has a community focus. Our focus is for the arts. There's also Heritage Lottery if your focus is towards history. And there are other funding bodies that would support you, just in terms of our lottery provision is focusing on the arts and culture. Okay, so it did explain briefly that on the little video that we've had some changes since July 2013. Basically, we lost 50% of our administration, so we've had to change the way in which we deliver grants for the arts. So the application form, and I've given you a how to apply pack, demonstrates the changes that we've made. Previously, you had to write a proposal with under 4 headings. Now we ask you a series of very targeted questions, which will ask you what you want to do with your activity and how you want to deliver it. I'll go into that in a bit more detail. It's just to highlight that we have changed slightly, and in terms of this threshold from being £10,000 up to £15,000, you don't have to apply for £15,000, and it is a rolling programme which is very competitive because people per day, there can be between 30 up to 60 applications that we receive. So, and this is nationally happening as well, and each week we have a decision of, given an amount of money that we have, and we have to make a decision on who we will fund with that limit within our budget. So you just have to think about what you need and what you need it for, and then we'll have to make a decision on if your project stands out amongst the others. Yeah?
Sorry, I might go through this, but is there an interview after the application process?
No, there's not. It's all down to the
all
application.
online.
So this is just an overview of all the different types of activities that we fund. You might not be aware of some of them because things like commissioning, we can actually fund you to help commission other artists if you want to represent people. Professional development, so that could be a period of time that you want to work on your own practice as an artist. We'd expect to see smaller applications for those type of things. That can include international travel, but we do have to see that there is a benefit to England in the long term. So you might actively go out to somewhere like Europe or China, have a residency, but then you'd come back and you'd tell some people or have an exhibition which kind of shows what you've learned and gained from that experience. I do have an example of one of those projects towards the end. In terms of other types of stuff, workshops, if you want to deliver a series of workshops and you need some funds up front to help you deliver that, that's okay. We just need to be able to see what it's for and how it's going to be used. See if there's any more. Audience development, who is your audience? Lots of visual artists don't actually think too much about their audience, they think about their art, their practice. Who are you trying to reach? Why are you trying to reach them? Are you an artist who wants to sell? Are you an artist who has something that they want to say to a particular type of audience? Who do you want to reach out to? How are you going to engage with them?
So I'm just giving an example of a digital project.
What is a digital project?
Yeah.
So that's really broad. It can be anything from like audio-visual work, for example, like projection with music and changing animation. It could be sound-based art. I've got a sound-based art example in this presentation as well. It could be working the moving image. We don't fund film, but we do support working the moving image. So if you're experimenting with the medium of film, but it's not a narrative film, so it's not a film about a couple getting together, it's more of an experimental process, then we do support that. There is more individual guidance on how we explore with film. It could be around online platform in terms of how we actually engage with audiences as well, so it is quite broad, it's quite open. So who can apply? Some people that you might not expect, researchers, we do support research, festival writers, museums and libraries. We have recently built a relationship with those two. We've taken on MIA without the A, so museums and libraries but not the archives. People do residencies in museums as artists. Universities and schools, you do have to be able to demonstrate that you are impacting on a broader audience more than just the university or school itself. community groups. You can work with them delivering arts events. Is there any on there which people are unsure of?
Composers? Well, obviously, how exactly can composers work with concepts?
In exactly the same way a visual artist can. So it could be that they have a period of time to write a new piece of music. Or it might be that you actually want to collaborate with a musician. So I've got an example of that too. So what we don't fund. It must relate to the arts. We are the Arts Council, that's what we're here for. Activity that has potential no benefit to the public, either in the short term or long term. So that means it could be that no one else is going to gain anything from this other than yourself. It's too much of a self-promotional venture. It must demonstrate that either immediately or later on you will be able to engage with the public in some way. Activities, buying goods or services which take place or start before we're able to decide on your application. Basically, don't buy anything before we've made a decision on your application. We can't fund anything retrospectively. You must have time. For an application for under £15,000, it takes 6 weeks to actually apply for your application. That's when we reach a decision. You'll get a letter, and then on top of that, you might have a condition against it. It's unlikely if it's under £15,000, but we'll need you to sign that letter and return it to us with your bank account details. And then it will take time for us to process that, so allow up to 2 weeks. So in total, you need to kind of realistically have 8 weeks in your mind, but we will give you the decision in 6 weeks. For over £15,000, it takes 12 weeks for an application, for us to make a decision on an application, and then just allow for that 2 weeks on top of that. We also don't fund general running costs and overheads. So that's it. We do fund things for time limited, so if it was like a period of time to write or a period for you to practice as an artist, that's fine. We'd want to see a clear timeline in terms of when you're going to be developing your practice and a kind of output from that. We wouldn't want you to see, I just want to make art forever. Like, I would like to do that, that'd be great. But like, we need to see a time-limited project. Second-hand equipment, there is a couple of exceptions to this. So it might be like a musical instrument, for example, like a particular harp or a violin, which has an age attached to it because it generates a certain sound, or a really old piece of photographic equipment. So the thing where we can see there's a genuine need for it to be second-hand because you can no longer get it. But we want to, you can apply for equipment, but we need to see a rationale for why you're applying for that equipment. And what you intend to do with it and how it will also benefit the public in the future. Activities or events mainly taking place outside of England. So I was saying that you can apply for a residency. That's okay as long as you demonstrate what you then bring back to England. But if your entire activity is taking place outside of this country, you can actually usually apply for grants through their government schemes because you're kind of exporting out to their country. But it's a different application process, it's nothing to do with us. But if you are bringing content back or learning skills, you can make a case for it through us, but you have to be very clear how you do it. And then I explained about film. Do people feel relatively clear about film? It is a bit of a grey area and it's usually case by case dependent. So, another little cute video for you.
Anyone based within the European Union can apply, whether individually
characters. I actually work with those people. Rebecca I actually sit next to, she's lovely. So, let's go back. The application form. So, in the booklets that I've given you, it will go through the criteria. So it's an online application, and you can go into it and out of it at any time that you want to. So you can do a bit of it, load up your details, and go away and think about the question. You've got a limited number of characters which you'll see highlighted, how many characters, and that's including spaces that you can write about each question that we ask for. And they're under the headings quality, public engagement, management, and finance. So we'll be asking you set questions which you'll see in that, and we'll go through one of those criteria just to get a bit more of an understanding of the type of things that we're looking for. If you get stuck, you can also call up our inquiries team, and they can actually shadow your application. So they can actually go into the system and look at what's going on if you're stuck. So you can always call them and ask them, I don't understand, and they can help you. You can usually also hover over the question and it actually give you a more detailed explanation if you wanted to. So, I don't know if you picked up on the fact that we ask you for at least 10% from other funds. This means that this can be through in kind, which is where services for free. So in terms of volunteer support, or if someone's going to promote you through marketing, and you can ask them to give you a quote in terms of what services they're actually providing you, and ask them to value that, and you can include that value into your application. We consider that as a value. It might also be something like mentoring from another member of staff. It could be a venue space like this, where they're giving it for free. It does have a cash consideration, but it's in kind. Your application will be stronger if you can demonstrate that you have partnership funding from other sources, actual hard cash. That might be that you're going to potentially generate some income, so you might be doing some ticket sales. We'd like to see that they're realistically based. So if you've got a venue which has a capacity for, how many chairs have we got here? Like 30? And how many people have we got here? So 25. So you would calculate that per head, and that would give you a set figure of how much you're going to project that you're going to bring in. And we will check, there's a risk team will look at the risk in terms of, are your projections realistic? It might be that you want to sell a publication, so is your projections of selling a publication realistic? There's different methods in which you can do your generating income. You might be looking at other grants, so you can actually put in that you are hoping to get a grant from another source, and you can let us know which grant that is. We accept that as well as potential funding. Your application will be stronger if it's confirmed funding in place. And you can actually choose between penciled and confirmed.
What happens if it's like a loan?
Sorry?
What happens if it's like a loan?
If you've got a loan?
Yeah, I mean, basically you apply for a loan to invest in this one.
You can put that in, that you've got a loan confirmed.
Yeah.
I mean, there would potentially be risks attached to that because of how are you going to pay for that loan afterwards. And because it would concern us in terms of what is the rate of that loan that you're going to be paying back, and how are you going to be making that payment to it. So you do have to think about that carefully.
I want to ask something. Can you go on in the third point, please?
The what, sorry?
About we should have at least 10%.
Yeah.
Is it necessary?
Yes, you have to have this 10%. So, because when I was saying in terms of how we give you the 90% up front,
okay.
we'll hold on to that at the last 10%, and that's why we expect you to have 10% as well. But as I was saying, you can be support in kind, so we do accept applications which are made up of 10% support in kind So that is free services rather than cash contributions. But your application will be stronger because you'll be competing against other people if you've got actual cash partnership in, because there's less risk attached to it for us. So, the competition. Last year we received nearly 8,500 applications and we awarded 3,300. What I'd like to say though, in the North we actually do quite well. Just last year we achieved like 43%, and nationally it's like 30%, so we do quite well. And the Northwest does really well. It's because we rule. So yeah, we do basically receive more good applications than we can fund. It's an unfortunate fact. I wish we did have more money, then everybody could have fund grants. So, what do fund grants look like? I don't know if anyone has heard of this. Got some nods. So this is the Chandelier of Lost Earrings by two artists, Lauren Sagar and Sharon Campbell, where they proposed they wanted to unite the experience of losing an earring, and they just asked people from all over the country to submit their remaining earring so that it could be contributed to this giant chandelier. And it's just recently won a National Lottery award for being like the best artistic piece. They're based in Manchester in Road Studios, so again, Northall. So I just thought that was a nice example to show in terms of the type of thing that you can present. This is Helen Schnell, her exhibition Burnt Out. On the left-hand side is she's a paper-based artist who uses laser cut and carving. She actually did a residency in the Royal Navy Submarine Museum, and so you can see that there is a doctor doing an examination on someone who wants to join the Navy. But then if you look at the back of the head, as the doctor is looking through the mouth, there are bullet wounds coming out of the person, and this is because of her experiences seeing all the medical equipment and thinking about the young heroes who actually sacrificed their lives for us, basically. And she wanted to continue developing this work, and she wanted to explore different materials. So she wanted to look at acrylic, steel, ceramics and other forms of cutting, and she wanted to continue her practice and then present it into the space 2021. And so we supported her, and she was able to do another residency and then develop this work, which it was much bigger and enabled her to increase on her scale. So in terms of professional development, there was a clear trajectory in terms of what she wanted to achieve, and she actually did little drawings in terms of what she wanted to do. You can only submit one piece of supporting information to us now, which is a shame, because it limits what you can show us, but it's up to 10 megabytes, so you can be quite clever in terms of how you submit the information together.
So when you said before about it can be for personal development or professional development rather, but it has to be relevant to a wider audience. Did then you just decide that this work was good? Is that how you measure that? Is that because you say, well, we all like the look of this, therefore we think the public will like the look of it? Is that?
So we do measure in terms of quality, which is one of our criteria. And what we look at is track record. So this person clearly had a track record doing a residency with the museum.
Right.
And clearly is able to demonstrate that she does good practice. She had other residencies that she was able to show us in her application. Yeah. She also had a confirmed partner, which was the 2021 gallery, which she wanted to eventually have an exhibition with. And she was able to evidence what she had in terms of what she wanted to achieve as an output, but she needed financial support to help her develop the pieces of work that she wanted to So that's how we were able to help her. But she was very clear in terms of what she wanted from us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, Amju, I think you pronounce it, Fierce Exhibition, which is photography exhibition. So, this artist is a photographer and actually wanted to bring out better representation of queer, black and ethnic minority artists, contemporaries. So actually did a photographic series of various different types of artists, so activists as well, filmmakers, dancers, models, like this image on the left, and displayed it in London and then it toured. So there was again a clear rationale for developing audiences in terms of making more people learn more about how to celebrate queer and black and ethnic minority artists, putting that out in the domain. Developing the artist practice by also bringing a group of other collective creative minds together and celebrating them, and raising a new platform. So Joe Brannan is a live artist, and this is a very different type of artistic experience, because when you say public engagement, it can be quite like, how do I reach everyone? She actually went in a different direction. As a live artist, her project was to have a contained space and a telephone, and it was a one-on-one experience, and only a handful of people actually got to experience this work. Picked up the phone, and then she would have a dialogue with them, asking very personal, in-depth questions about what it's like to live, to die, to be in love, and have a really intimate exchange. And that dialogue was with a very small number of people, but the impact that it would have on those individuals would be very strong and personal, because it directly worked with them and engaged with them. So it was a much more intense experience. And she also did this as part of In Between Times Festival in 2013, and she's since toured the work and showed it at Contact Theatre. So again, there was an ability to show that this project had legs, would have life after her period of professional development. Sorry, the piece was called Deadline. So I'm dyslexic, so saying these names are really hard for me. Sarajan, thank you. So, a choreographer, dancer, drawer, scientist, enjoys actually exploring how the human body can create work, enjoys actually drawing using his feet. Worked with Birmingham University to do a series of works which actually worked with science students. So people who wouldn't necessarily normally engage with the arts, and got them to look at different processes of drawing, so from their elbow, from between their toes, got them to engage, quite playful. But also it was about looking at his own personal practice in terms of exploring how he could actually evolve this method of creating work. So we do allow for experimentation and creativity. It doesn't have to have a final output. It can be that you just need time. You can also be funded to put on a talk, very much like this. So Justin Cook, she did her artist talks in Pristine, am I saying that right? But a very rural location. Actually had quite an artistic hub, a lot of people who wanted to have a network where they could explore art together. So she actually charged £20 per head for a one-day conference and had 3 talks during that day, and brought in other artists to come and talk about their work. I've actually got notes on Google. So, because the focus was on landscape and the art and how it relates to the land. So she had a clear theme within the work in terms of what she wanted to deliver and how it related to their locality. So Emily Speed, she was nominated for a Morgan Prize last year, and I think it was Sally who actually, Sally Talent, who nominated her for that. There's also a piece from the Biennial, Biennale in Venice Biennale, and the Lily piece was part of the why is it gone from my brain? Not the Trafford Centre, the other stately home outside of Manchester. It's
Stately home outside of Manchester.
outside of Manchester. They have like an annual art. Sorry, Tatton Hall, thank you. Yeah, sorry. Did you say that? Sorry. Yeah, Tatton Hall. So another example of an art intervention on the lake. So brought people together to discuss how art can have an impact on landscape. And again, this is a reason why we were able to fund them, because it was able to demonstrate that there was a need, an audience who would come together, and it was very successfully received. Joe Simpson, I really like his work, just because I think it's kind of a bit hoppery. But a painter, professional development, he actually wanted to do a series of paintings. But what was a bit more interesting about this is he actually got funding from a company, a music company, find where it was, Audio Technica, who sponsored him and gave him headphones for the exhibition. And he had a series of 12 paintings, and for each painting, he actually collaborated with musicians to have a soundtrack to the painting. So a person could stand in front of the painting and listen to music which would relate to his piece. And you can now actually buy the album of the work through iTunes. So an interesting collaboration between music and art as well, but also to get that sponsorship, that actual hard cash to get those headphones was really able to demonstrate interesting partnerships. Who else have we got? So this is the kind of sound art piece. Let's Go Yorkshire, Mandeep Hammer Sound System Culture. So this was exploring particularly Sheffield history about immigration into Sheffield and black history in terms of black and Caribbean history in terms of how they came into the country. And she actually recorded different local residents' experiences in terms of their journeys over here, and then had them on vinyl and integrated them into these vinyls, and then people could actually use these sound systems, which was kind of made to look like this 70s makeup. So you could actually put on a vinyl, play around with it, and it also gave a bit of history, and this was then run alongside different melodies and toured. So had a really great access for people who wouldn't normally necessarily engage with the arts, because it was a very public place. But there was insights in terms of that learning, in terms of the history and capturing unique voices, and having fun with it in a really engaging way. People could actually just pick them up and they were in control of the sound. So another fun example. This piece, Rob Dunn and Daniel Stancliffe. So Rob Dunn applied for this, but worked in collaboration with Daniel Stancliffe. So in terms of what I was saying, you can apply as an individual but work with other people. So Rob wanted to join Daniel out in China and have a residency over there. And he was interested in exploring cultural myths. So it's looking into unknown monsters like the Sasquatch and creating a myth. So he actually created this large cage and then set up all these kind of things in terms of hunting out this mysterious monster that was hanging out in the rainforests, and then made a photographic exhibition and a video installation, and it's playing on the notions of kind of propaganda, how you generate a myth, and then brought this stuff back and exhibited it at the Chinese Centre for Contemporary Art. So he was able to demonstrate that he was developing his own personal development abroad, but then had a showcase when he came back and talked about the work. And just so you're also aware, the Centre for Chinese Contemporary Art also have a residency program with Chongqing, and you can actually apply for support for that residency. They just brokered that relationship, but other people have actually been awarded grants for that as well. So those are just some examples of the different types of activity, just to give you an overview. This is the cycle in terms of how the process you will go through if you do apply for grants for the arts. So you can come in for advice. Advice can be just like today, just learning about what grants for the arts is, but you can also call our inquiries team. You can also ask for something called pre-application advice. And that can be in the form of a telephone conversation or a meeting with a relationship manager. You can ask specifically who would help you the most. It might be visual arts, but we also have cross-art form relationship managers. So in terms of digital, we do have a specialist across the area. We also have combined arts, so if you're collaborating with more than one art form, or if you're particularly interested in understanding how you can develop your audiences, and that might be online or in person, we have an audience and engagement relationship manager as well. So you do your application, you type it all up, you might come back to it, and we'll go through an eligibility and risk check, which basically you will know, you'll know quite quickly if you're ineligible, because you will receive a letter saying, for whatever reason, you do have an eligibility criteria which I touched on in terms of it must be arts related, and it must have benefit to England. There is a checklist which is in there. I urge you to read it just to make sure you're covering all those bases. And then if you're applying for up to £15,000 or under, your application will go along with the other applications for that week. And there will be a panel of people who will read through all those applications, and they will make a decision based against a risk assessment, which is kind of done with this risk team who do your eligibility, which is around the financial stuff. And then the panel will focus on the engagement and the quality of your application against the others in that particular week. And then if you're unsuccessful, you would receive a letter with a reason stating why your activity wasn't chosen over others, or you will be offered a grant, and that's when you get the letter and we're asking for your bank account details and a signed letter, etc. For over £15,000, that's where it goes into the 12-week process. So they have to do an appraisal against the criteria, and the criteria is quality, management, finance, and public engagement, those 4 areas.
That's the area before.
Yeah.
And that's what, yes, but I mean, because in the unders as well, because the questions that they're asking, they are following that criteria as well.
That's what I like.
And then again, it goes to a panel, and then decision is made the same way. Yeah.
So if you were unsuccessful, could you then take on the feedback and apply again?
You can, absolutely. We would urge you to take feedback, more than just the letter, which outlines the reason. You can have a more detailed conversation, because we would expect to see you make an improvement on your application, so actually refining it in terms of tailoring what was wrong. It might just be that it was down to competition for funds, and that does happen, but you can always usually make an improvement somewhere, and that's why even if you get that, I'd urge you just to call up and say, I've received this, can you give me some guidance?
Yeah, sorry, one more question. If there's an organisation that's already set up, can you still apply for funding if you feel like that organisation needs it? Do you know what I mean? Like, does this have to be for brand new things?
No, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question.
So say there was an arts organisation set up last year, could you still apply for funding for it?
For
to keep
what?
it going?
I see, right, okay.
Because say it was a year thing.
So, for example, in terms of like Royal Standard, they have previously received funding from us in terms of to support their programme of work. We wouldn't support them for their ongoing overheads, but we have supported them in terms of them wanting to bring in artists, to do artist talks or to run exhibitions. So stuff like that we would support. If you're running, we'd want to see that you are able to maintain as an organisation, but we'd help kind of develop your practice.
Thank you.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
So on that same kind of theme, if you have ideas as an organization for a more than one project, you're talking about separate applications.
Yeah, and what you can do is, because you can always apply as an individual if it's down to you individually and your development. If you're applying as an organisation, you can only apply one application per time, but as soon as you've got a decision on that application, you can submit another one. But we would question, why are you bringing one after the other, and do you have capacity to deliver it? If we've just given you, it might be that you want research and development, so it's a smaller bid, and then once you've got the findings and the results from that research and development, you actually want to do the project and deliver, and you might come in for a bigger one. And we'd actually see that as good practice because you've refined exactly what you want to do and achieve through that period of research and development. So there's less risk for us. But in terms of if you're applying as separate organisations, they are separate. So I've kind of gone through that. And that's the end of my presentation. So in terms of, that's the inquiries team's number. And you can also drop them an email if you just want to inquire a little bit about them. There's loads of information on our website, and that also includes information sheets which are more tailored around specific things like asset purchase or film or public engagement. You can also ask from our inquiries team for applications in bigger fonts or hard copy if required. Additionally, if like me, you're dyslexic, you can also apply for support, and we'll actually get someone to work through your draft of your application. You have to create a draft first. They don't read through drafts and make suggestions in terms of what you can do better. They only change and modify the language to ensure that you are representing yourself the best possible way. Additionally, if you need it in Braille or another language, that's fine, but you do have to submit it in English. And then lastly, that's our Twitter account, and if you've loved this presentation and you've loved what I've said, please let me know. That was amazing, because I'd be very happy. How are we doing? It's actually past, isn't it? We can have a quick look, or should we just ask questions?
Yeah.
Is there more questions?
For example, if a person that is an international student can participate.
Yeah. So, because I didn't actually touch on it, if you're within the European Union, you can actually apply for bringing product into England as well. But if you're living in the UK, that's fine. You have to.
If you are not from the European Union.
What are you? Do you have?
No, I'm just talking here in England, but outside of European Union.
But you're living here at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine then. As long as you're, so it's while you're living here, that's fine.
Okay.
What eventually become a portfolio for the organization? You have to. That's a long impression to discuss with our.
Yeah, so it's about, again, mainly track record in terms of being able to demonstrate. Portfolio funding is different, it's revenue funded, so it's not project funded. So the type of application is different.
Yes, that makes sense.
So, because these are all for projects, finite projects, whereas it's kind of ongoing money that you get with portfolio funding. So the criteria is different, and the application process is only open every 3 years. It's just closed, and the announcements for organisations has just been recently announced. So Liverpool Biennial were successful in their application, but they've got another 3 years secure with us.
Do you have any office here?
Sorry?
Any department for advice here in Liverpool?
We've got an office in Manchester,
Okay.
but because we have an office in Manchester, in Dewsbury, and in Newcastle in the north, but we do have them nationally. But because we can contact you like through phone and email as well.
Okay.
But the capacity has been significantly reduced, so you're less likely to have a face-to-face. But we do try where possible to get out and kind of do things like this. Is there any more? I mean, because we don't really have time to go through either like quality or finance, but is there any particular questions that you have around the criteria?
They come from the exhibitions.
Sorry?
They come from the exhibitions.
We can fund exhibitions, yeah. So if you want to put on a show for yourself, a solo show, you can get that funded, or it could be that you do it as part of a group. So you can, and that would actually kind of strengthen your application because there's more of you. Between you can do more. If you, we'd want to see things like where is the venue that's going to take place, how are you going to promote that activity, how long is it going to be on for, and being really clear in terms of the fees that like, are you paying the artists that are being involved in that exhibition. Others have done models where they've actually done an exhibition like the Open West. They charge people to apply to join their exhibition, but they have a prize for a winner, and they will display like 20 or so artists. So that's how they choose to generate their income, and that's not like always a great thing. Some artists will say, why should I have to pay to try and join this program? But if you do, it's a great profile. You've had a selection process because there is a panel of experts who are choosing which pieces go on. So there's a level of recognition. It then gives you that platform up. So there's different arguments in terms of what makes a good model for you. Would you charge? Would it be ticketed? Would it be free?
I want to ask something is, for example, if I buy the art, can I do that, or is preferably rented?
You can't have it so it's profit making, but what you can do, so you can make an application with the expectation that you're going to sell your work, but we'd want to see that that would form part of your income. So you can actually say, I'm going to generate 10 pieces, I might expect to sell 5 or 3, and then have a value of how much you expect to sell those for, and then that amount would go into your income, so you're demonstrating your potential income.
Or you told that we can get profit?
No, because you would show that out of that, you're still going to have it'd have to go into your expenditure. So that might go against like artist fees. So we do expect artists to be paid a reasonable amount.
No, but I don't want to sell it. I just want to exhibit.
Right.
I would like to exhibit and maybe the person can pay the ticket or something. But even if don't pay the ticket, doesn't matter.
Well, other artists have also done it so that for a fixed period, they have a free exhibition. And that is the encompassment of the project, which they've applied for through Grants for the Arts, and that would demonstrate the end of the project. You would have those products at the end, but what you choose to do with those after that exhibition is your choice.
Okay.
As long as we've seen what has happened during that period, so you put them on display for a month or whatever. So then after that time, you would have done your evaluation. You would still own those products that you've produced, but it's kind of up to you what you would do with those.
Oh, okay.
What about international artists coming into England? Is that
Coming into us?
yes, to benefit the impact that's happening here?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And that can be international as well, because it's benefiting England. So as long as they're being exhibited here. But you can equally do exchanges as well, because there's a benefit from England going out and vice versa. And that can be beyond Europe as well.
Sorry, really quickly, is there a mentoring scheme available? So you're given the money, but is there anyone to maybe help you find places to exhibit, or is
So there are schemes, like, because we can't, I can list a number to you, like, so you've got Castlefield Gallery, for example. They are more tailored towards emerging artists. You've got things like Access Web, which is an online platform, AN, Arts Newsletter. These are all different functions for artists to gain information. There's Arts Quest, which is just full of all the legal stuff that you need to be aware of, which and we're not actually able to tell you, because we can't tell you how much you should get as an artist in terms of payment, but AN, they actually have a thing called AIR. I don't know if people are aware of this, where it actually gives you a list of artist fees, and depending on the stage of your career as an artist, what they recommend is a reasonable amount to be charging.
So what did you say the name of this was?
AIR.
AIR.
So AIR. So you have to actually pay to join their membership.
Yes.
But they also, with that membership comes insurance for like public liability and other things. It is because they're an NPO in the same way. It's like a service that they provide. But through NPOs as well is another way of asking for support. And some of them do deliver things like arts awards. Some of them are able to provide application advice. Theatres do things like training with readings and script writing. So depending on the function of the organisation, they have different things which they have to deliver as an NPO, so it's worth exploring. And a really good network for all of you is CAVAN, Contemporary Visual Arts Network, which is a national network of all the visual arts organisations. So in Liverpool, because in the regions there are like smaller kind of silos of them. In Liverpool there's something called the Vale, which is visual arts in Liverpool. So that encompasses Liverpool Biennial, Blue Coat, Fact, Tate, and they get together and they talk about things that they can program together. But if you go on to CAVAN, Contemporary Visual Arts Network, they display different funding opportunities.